we used to have, Jamie and I used to have arguments about whether I thought that we were capable of having a society that would be completely socialist, right? Or I think communist,
probably,
and without, and also anarchist. And my argument is that we're always going to have a problem with at least some segment of the population. It could be small, it doesn't take many, who are going to have a will to power, who are not going to, that we need to have some form of checks and balances. I mean, I just believe that we need some type of tension in the system on some level. Where that balance is up for debate. But and when we look at the idea that we have a huge percentage of the country who are just so heavily invested into the idea that there is not a pandemic, and that it is the idea of, put aside vaccinations because that's sort of like, mysterious, and I can't access it because I don't know what these ingredients are. I can't see that. And, maybe, the news media is lying to me about whether, people are getting injured from it or that it's keeping people safe. I mean, all this stuff is like, but the idea of masks is so basic. And for however old you are, subtract the first 5 or 6 years of your life. That amount of time is how familiar you have been with the concept that doctors in surgery wear masks. And if it was like making you pass out or making you lightheaded or was preventing you from getting oxygen, you would not have surgeons wear those because they're performing surgery inside your body. They're holding a sharp instrument. And if the idea that a mask could I can't function.
Yeah, but I'm not a surgeon.
We hear all about these hospital accidents, and it turns out we've just been suffocating the staff.
Yeah.
Exactly. All the staff at the hospital. So I'm just saying, masks are just sort of so basic. Now, I can understand, I don't have data to know, how effective, a cotton mask is, or how effective it is. I can't, I understand there's some discrepancy there.
Yeah.
But the concept of masks.
You're working in a logical sphere, Sam.
But this isn't
No, they go, this is uncomfortable, bad.
Well,
That's what it is.
Dennis Prager and Sebastian Gorka on Newsmax on Monday. My point is if we can't get people to agree on the concept of masks during a pandemic, we got a long way to go before we can cooperate as a society, I don't know, do anything. Really. But here is Gorka and Dennis Prager.
Okay, so these are two separate issues. I have been vindicated, unfortunately.
Oh.
More and more people hearing that statement today would say, yes, it turns out to be true. Sweden, in my opinion, is the A/B test, and they prove the point.
Nope.
The media do not like to talk about Sweden. They say that they had more deaths per capita than Denmark and Norway. That is true. They cherry pick their data. Sweden had every school for kids under 16 open every day with no masks. Not one kid died. The shutting down of schools is a form of child abuse. I want you to know, as you probably do know, I've been broadcasting 35 years. I took a vow to myself and to my listeners never to exaggerate. Forget lie. I think I sin against God if I lie. I'm talking about exaggerate. It is child abuse what has been done. Making a 2-year-old wear a mask will go down as comparable to the Salem witch trials. But the people who did the Salem witch trials recanted and apologized very shortly thereafter. The people who want your 2-year-old to wear a mask don't apologize. They double down. So, Sebastian, We are watching the ascent of the irrational. Watching Americans obey this without question has been one of the most depressing experiences of my life.
Matt?
So yeah, a lot of things to say. And the first people should know is that Prager is motivated to downplay the Salem witch trials because he is a closet theocrat. Salem witch trials was a horrific time period where 25 people were executed, more held in jail because of frenzied rumors by neighbors. It's also like, it was also Puritans, right? Like,
Yeah.
the problem, so what is Dennis Prager? Is he a free speech guy or is he a closet theocrat, like I said? Well, a free speech guy would focus on the fact that after the Salem witch trials, the governor of Massachusetts said no books can be written about this except for one by Cotton Mather, which basically justifies the trials. And so when he's saying like people apologize for it, no, like Cotton Mather particularly wrote multiple books defending the actual like validity of witch trials. One guy, Samuel Sewell, said, hey, we shouldn't have actually murdered those people because we didn't have proper evidence to do it. That was 5 years later, breaking that imposed official silence. So yeah, I don't know if we have 25 executions for people about wearing masks yet, but I also know that like Dennis Prager and all these conservatives that talk about child abuse, if we're going to talk about closing schools as child abuse, I would say also austerity for schools is also mass child abuse, and we need to massively be investing in education and for children to avoid child abuse on a mass scale that is supported by people like Dennis Prager.
Do you remember when Prager was all about we must give free lunches to children in public schools? Mm-hmm. Right. You don't, because he didn't. There is no doubt that not sending kids to school is incredibly difficult for the vast majority of children and families. Mm-hmm. And I, for one, am, if now that we have a vaccine and can protect teachers from the most dangerous aspects of COVID and their families, I am in favor of sending all the kids back to school with masks. Having a child who was I guess now 8, turned 6 just as this started. I can tell you that he doesn't mind wearing a mask. I mean, to the point where I'm like, dude, you can take that off. We're in the car. He's like, the car smells. Which it might. He doesn't like the new car smell. It's a 5-year-old car, but nevertheless.
Kids are inherently understanding about protecting other people and empathetic, and they also are able to adapt quite easily because they, aren't Dennis Prager.
And there's no doubt about it. Like, it sucks. My son has to walk out of our apartment and... not technically anymore, but he feels more comfortable, and I do too, actually. When I wear a mask when I walk out of the apartment, and then I go outside and I drop it, and he doesn't. And I've told him he can, and he's like, I'd rather not. Now, I'm vaccinated. He's not. But the idea that this is child abuse to protect children, particularly last year when we don't know the dynamic of COVID, to protect teachers, particularly when we don't know the dynamics with COVID and this pandemic, it's just nuts.
Well, you mentioned free lunches. Is Dennis Prager in favor of the child tax credit? Literally designed to prevent poverty. You know what's child abuse? Is poverty. Poverty is child abuse. He's not really outspoken about that, but it's just a convenient way for them to stoke specific COVID denial elements, which allows them to, participate in a broader science denial project and get moms energized on the grassroots. But that's what this is.
It's also funny that he said that it's cherry picking data to focus on deaths of Sweden. Like, they focus how Sweden had the highest death rate, and that's true, but they're cherry picking the data because Sweden also kept schools open.
Yeah, after they did the herd immunity push that we were actually asking for, and more people died, but that's just cherry picking data. Yeah. And the Salem witch trial thing too, they're just out of Holocaust metaphors, so now they got to pick another thing.
Yeah, if there's a equivalent to Salem witch trials going on right now, it's the CRT panic.
Folks, there's more of what you've just saw where that came from. That's if you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you. Really, thank you.